Senate will come to order. All those not having privileges of the floor will please vacate the chamber. Those in the gallery and those on the floor will please rise while we were led in prayer by the senator from Raleigh. Please remain standing after the prayer as the senator from Marion leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, it is a great privilege to come to you in prayer and ask for your intervention and your guidance as we go through the process of legislation. We thank you for this great chamber and every member of it. We pray for your blessings upon each one who makes things happen in the right direction here in this place as we all collectively try to help the state of West Virginia. We thank you for the support personnel that you provided to assist us and pray that you would bless and meet every need. Help us to have a day today that would glorify you. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Senior Senator from the 8th.
May we stand and place our hands over our heart and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reading of the Journal.
West Virginia Legislature Senate Journal, March 15th, 2021. The Senate met at 11:01 a.m. Senator Blair, Mr. President, in the chair.
The senator from Morgan requests unanimous consent. Further reading of the Journal be dispensed with and the Journal be approved. Is there objection? The chair hears none. Further reading of the Journal is dispensed with and the Journal is approved. Introduction of guests. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Senate, it is your pleasure and mine to introduce our doc of the day. In the rear of the chamber with us today, we have Dr. Shomez Guha. I've known Dr. Guha for many, many years. He was a family medicine attending here in Charleston. He's probably famous because Dr. Guha would actually wear a headlamp when he would round, because of many hours of the late night, 11, 12, early morning, 6 a.m., he didn't want to wake up the other patients and was very conscientious of that. So he would wear a light so that he could just see the patient he was examining and not wake up the other patients in the room. And we'll always remember that. But if you wouldn't mind standing, let's Senate give him a warm welcome.
Further introduction, Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. In our North Gallery today, we have Dan Brocky and Rex Egan from the West Virginia Christian Education Association. Please stand, gentlemen. Senate make them welcome.
Further introductions. Senior Senator from the 6th.
Also, I believe here, potentially in the South Gallery, we have Pastor Bo Burgess, and he's the director of the West Virginia Baptist for Biblical Values. These gentlemen are here today with a meeting that the House put together earlier this morning to address Christian and conservative values. So please make them welcome.
Further introductions. Communications from the House.
The Clerk of the House announced the passage by that body of committee substitute for House Bill 2688 to allow county political parties to have building funds in a similar manner that state parties are allowed.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2705 authorizing the Department of Health and Human Resources to promulgate a legislative rule relating to food establishments.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2797 declaring certain claims to be moral obligations of the state.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2834 adding the curator of the West Virginia Division of Arts, Culture, and History as an ex officio voting member of the Commission.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2877 expand direct health care agreements beyond primary care to include more medical care services.
The bill will be received and referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2891 creating minimum statutory standards for law enforcement officers.
The bill will be received and referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
House Bill 2969 to clarify the procedures for the
The bill will be received and referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2972, allowing a person to manufacture a stated amount of alcoholic liquor for personal consumption.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
The House adopted House Concurrent Resolution 9, urging Congress to call a convention of states to limit terms of office of the U.S. House of Representatives.
The message will be received and the resolution will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
House Concurrent Resolution 35, requesting the Department of Health and Human Resources to continuously evaluate the child welfare system.
The message will be received and the resolution will be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources. Communications from the Executive.
There are none.
Reports from standing committees.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 422, establishing common law veil-piercing claims not be used to impose personal liability, and reports back committee substitute for same, and Senate Bill 626, updating regulation for purchase of automobile catalytic converters, and reports back committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the two committee substitutes do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration Senate Bill 531 relating to incomplete, duplicative, or redundant claims for refund, and Senate Bill 532 limiting claims for state tax credits and rebates, and reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass. Respectfully submitted, Eric J. Tarr, Chair.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Joint Resolution 11, Constitutional Officer Term Limit Amendment, and reports back committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute be adopted, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
The report will be received and under the original double committee reference, the resolution will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration engrossed House Bill 2709, providing that the aggregate liability of a surety on a consumer protection bond under the West Virginia FinTech Regulatory Sandbox Program does not exceed the principal sum of the bond. And engrossed House Bill 2764, allow the Division of Financial Institutions to enter into reciprocity agreements with other jurisdictions that operate similar programs to the West Virginia FinTech Sandbox Program, and reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
The report will be received. Reports from select committees.
There are none.
Introduction of bills.
There are none.
Resolutions.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 27 by Senators Romano, Nelson, Lindsay, Martin, and Caputo, naming the Walker Brothers Veterans Memorial Bridge.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over 1 day.
Senate Resolution 20 by Senator Maroney, designating Disability Advocacy Day.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over 1 day. Motions. Petitions.
There are none.
Unfinished business.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 26, naming the U.S. Army Tech 5 William Bill Thurman King Memorial Bridge.
The resolution will be referred to the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. Bills on third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 318, relating generally to public notice of unclaimed property held by State Treasurer. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Wetzel.
Senator from Morgan.
Senator from Morgan. Senator from Morgan?
No.
Senator will be at ease. Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 318 would eliminate the requirement that the State Treasurer's Office publish the entirety of its unclaimed property register in the newspaper. The bill would instead require that the Treasurer publish in the newspaper an advertisement informing readers that the State Treasurer holds unclaimed property and giving instructions as to how to access the information online or by phone or mail. The amendment we passed on the floor yesterday would require this publication to occur twice per year. Mr. President, I urge passage.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. One, two, three. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine to ascertain the results. On this question, 21 yeas, 12 nays, 1 absent and not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative. I declare the bill passed. The clerk has a title amendment.
Senator Clements moved to amend the title of the bill.
Question is on adoption of the title amendment. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the title amendment adopted. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 500, prohibiting intimidation and retaliation against public officers and employees, jurors, and witnesses. Third reading of the bill.
The question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 500 would amend a single section of the code. It's Chapter 61, which is our criminal code, Article 5, which is crimes against public justice, Section 27. And this is a statute that relates to the intimidation of retaliation against public officers, employees, jurors, witnesses, etc. The changes occur in the subsection B of the section under the heading of intimidation and harassment. So it adds some new language and strikes some old language in that subsection, but it would make it unlawful now for a person to cause, incite, or induce another to use threats, intimidation, physical force, harassment, or a fraudulent legal process or official proceeding, or attempt to do so with the intent to, and the intent part is largely not changed. We've stricken language from subsection B in the committee substitute, which talked about producing imminent lawless action. So I think it's a fair statement to say, Mr. President, that the effect of the committee substitute, if it's enacted, broadens the scope of the bill and the nature, the offenses which can be committed under it, and strikes out any requirement that that the lawless action contemplated and prescribed by the bill is imminent. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions, Mr. President. Otherwise, I urge the bill's passage.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent and not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative. I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 518, relating to grounds for administrative dissolution of certain companies, corporations, and partnerships. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 518 amends a number of sections of the code. It amends Section 809 in Chapter 31B, B as in boy, Article 8, and that is the Uniform Limited Liability Company Act. Article 8 is winding up the company's business. And this section addresses the grounds for administrative dissolution of the company. The bill also amends Chapter 31D, Article 14. 31D is the Business Corporation Act. Article 14 is grounds for administrative dissolution. And the bill amends Section 1420 of that act, which addresses specifically grounds for administrative dissolution. It amends also a section in Chapter 31E, which is our Nonprofit Corporation Act, and Article 13 within that act addresses dissolution, and the amendments are to Section 1320 of that act, which is administrative dissolution. Similar amendments in Chapter 47, Article 9, which is the Uniform Limited Partnership Act, and there's new language in that relates to administrative dissolutions. Section 10A is the section amended. This bill, Mr. President, comes to us from the West Virginia Secretary of State. And what it's doing is adding language in all those sections related to corporations, limited liability companies, nonprofit corporations, and allows the Secretary of State to dissolve such entities if there's been a misrepresentation made of any material matter in an application, report, or affidavit, or other records submitted by the company or the partnership or the LLC. And there is a process in each of those sections where a company or a limited liability company or a partnership that's been dissolved administratively may apply to the Secretary of State for reinstatement for a period of 2 years following the effective date of the dissolution. And the procedures for doing that are cross-referenced in the amendments. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions, Mr. President. Otherwise, I urge the passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 33 yeas, 0 nays, 1 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those voting having voted in the affirmative. I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 2006 relating to the West Virginia Contractor Licensing Act. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 2006 continues the existence of the Contractor Licensing Board, but moves it out of the Division of Labor and establishes it as an independent board in Chapter 30 of the Code. The Division of Labor will continue to provide services to the board for a 24-month transition period. The board may then continue to contract with the Division of Labor for services or make alternative arrangements. The bill also raises the threshold value of work that requires a contractor's license from a flat $2,500 to $5,000 for residential work and $25,000 for commercial work. The $2,500 amount had not been updated for 17 years. I'll take questions, otherwise I urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? Senior Senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Will done.
Will the Senator yield? The Senator yields.
Thank you.
Yes, I yield.
Mr. Chairman, I got 2 or 3 questions here I'd like to ask you, and just to make sure that I get a better understanding of the reason that we are moving the licensing board from Chapter 21 over to Chapter 30. I guess one of my first questions that I want to ask you was Commerce contacted about this?
They have been made aware of it, but as far as asking their opinion on it, I don't think that was our introductory question as to whether we should do it or not.
Okay. Was the licensing board contacted about this also to ask for their input?
A similar situation, you know, they have been made aware of it, but they weren't the first person that we asked that depended on whether we wanted to pursue this or not.
Was the Commissioner of Labor, was he contacted also about the change?
They have definitely been involved.
They was involved?
Yes, they were notified of the intent.
Was they asked for their input?
That wasn't really a consideration initially. It was something that I think needed to happen, and it's just a policy decision.
So, to your knowledge, there has not been any issues brought before Commerce or the Commissioner of Labor of any issues with contractor licensing?
As far as my knowledge of them coming to us and saying, hey, this is a problem, I have not.
Okay, all right, thank you. One other thing too, Mr. Chairman, I'm still trying to wrap my head around why we are making an exemption for, I'll just go ahead and say both of them, landscaping and painting, but specifically painting. I might be able to understand a little bit about, the residential part, but the commercial part is the one that's really puzzled me. The reason that we are removing them from acquiring a license. We both have seen in committee that was brought up a few painting contractors that have came from out of state that came in and wasn't paying the right taxes and so forth. What is, I guess the next question that I need to ask about that, can you explain to me what the purpose of the licensing board is for?
Well, as far as the painter's aspect of it, there's currently no painter's test that they are required to take. There's the business and law test. So there's no current test out there.
It's just like the other specialty contractors too, they have to take the business and law test. Why are we exempting just the painters only?
Well, for one thing, there's many catch nets that are out there that if a painter that is performing a job does not have the specifications required for the job, then they will get weeded out in the process before the contract is awarded.
Okay. All right. So my next question for you is, what is the purpose of the licensing board?
The purpose of the licensing board is to make sure that those with a license meets the requirements that are mandated by that licensing board.
What else are they do also?
I'm not sure what you're looking for.
Well, do they make sure that that they are registered with the Secretary of State, that they got their business registration, make sure that they got the proper workers' comp?
They do that, but they need to do that anyway. This just puts it in one thing.
Council tells me they are obligated to do that, and those same requirements are moved with them to Chapter 30.
Did you say they're obligated or not obligated?
They are obligated.
Correct. So why are we removing the painting contractors from that when they would make sure that out-of-state contractors come in here, we're going to exempt them now, that they can come in and do whatever they want without having all the registrations that should be in place?
All those obligations will still be in place. And that will happen in the business and law test.
Who will enforce it then?
Council tells me this is what I was thinking, the Secretary of State, they enforce the business and law test that each painter is required to take.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Speak to
Mr.
the
President,
bill.
may I speak to the bill, please?
Proceed.
Last year, we were here the same thing, trying to I don't know whether we're trying to fix a problem because there's not a problem. There has not been to my knowledge, and I've made some few phone calls, any reports of any issues that has to do with the Department of Labor, anything that has to do with the issue with the licensing board. I just see that we're trying to create an extra burden upon the Division of Labor, the licensing board, moving them over into Chapter 30. They're going to have to change they're going to have to put new statutes in place that'll be in comparison with the new rules. Why are we doing that? What is the purpose of doing that when there's not a problem right now? You know, I looked up the licensing board, and it says that it is hereby declared to be the policy of the state of West Virginia that all persons desiring to perform contracting work in this state be duly licensed to ensure capable and skilled craftsmanship utilized in construction projects in this state, both public and private, fair bidding, practices between competing contractors through uniform compliance with the laws of the state, and protection of the public from unfair, unsafe, and unscrupulous bidding and construction practices. Mr. President, I believe that what we're doing by removing the painting contractor from the licensing board, we're opening it up for contractors to come in here and take advantage of West Virginia citizens, especially our seniors, Mr. President, especially our seniors. I've seen it happen time after time. People go to a senior citizen's home, give them a price on doing something, pick up 50% of the cost of the project, and never see them again. Mr. President, I think this is a bad bill. I think it's unnecessary because there's not a problem out there. It's working properly. Mr. President, I urge rejection of this bill. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Junior Senator from the 8th.
Mr. President, I join the senior senator from the 8th in opposition to this bill for all the reasons that he just offered to us, especially given his real-world experience in these matters. But I would also add another reason. Whether it's a policy decision or not, if you're going to do this, then you should get the input of Commerce, Licensing, and the Labor Department, because it affects them tremendously, not just the consumers of West Virginia, not just West Virginians, but their livelihoods and the people who know better about these bills than anything else. So there's your reason, Mr. President. If you're not going to, regardless of whether or not it's a policy decision, if you're not going to get input from the stakeholders, then the bill shouldn't exist to begin with. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Senior Senator from the 6th wish to close the debate.
Yes.
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll have to disagree. I urge passage of this bill. West Virginia is so low on their job force participation. This is basically a jobs bill. It changes the code very little and just allows people out there to be potentially considering an occupation that they may not be able to currently get into because of our strict state code. And, this just, it may feed another family to be able to work here in our state, and I urge passage. Thank you, Mr. President.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 19 yeas, 14 nays, 1 absent not voting. More than a majority of those present in voting having voted in the affirmative. I declare the bill passed. The clerk has a title amendment.
Committee on Government Organization moved to amend the title of the bill.
The question is on adoption of the title amendment. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the title amendment adopted. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 2009 relating to limitations on the use of wages and agency shop fees by employers and labor organizations for political activities. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. On this floor yesterday, the Senate adopted the Judiciary Committee strike and insert amendment for the House bill, and I went through it section by section yesterday, so I'll not do that again. But what I will say is that what this bill does now, first of all, it makes an affirmative statement in the law that all public employees in West Virginia have the right of an employee to join, become a member of, contribute to, donate to, or pay dues or fees to a union, labor organization, or club. Bill affirmatively recognizes that right for every public employee in West Virginia. But what the bill does as it lies before us, it says that the payroll offices of the governmental employers of our public employees will no longer be the collection agents for these organizations. And throughout the bill, with respect to public employees, Mr. President, the bill provides that there'll be no deductions or assignments of earnings for unions, labor organizations, or club dues or fees from their public paychecks through the payroll offices where they work. Public employees will apply to employees of the boards of education, municipal corporations, county commissions, and the state of West Virginia itself, Mr. President. Now, and I mentioned also, I should say again, we did a carve-out there was an amendment, floor amendment to the committee amendment yesterday, which makes it clear we're not treading upon any of the existing requirements of existing collective bargaining agreements which may exist between municipalities and their employees. I'll be happy to try to answer questions about this, Mr. President. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? Senator from Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in opposition, strong opposition to this bill. It's simply retribution. It's punishment. With all due respect to the senator from Morgan, there is no burden on payroll systems by deducting an amount and pushing it over to whatever association it belongs to. We've been doing it for decades. It's a box. It's a computer flip of a switch. It sounds good, but the reality is we're singling out the education associations who represent our educators in order to try to bury them financially. I received a letter, as many of you did, from the West Virginia Troopers Association, just to be clear that there's not other groups that are caught up in this net. They say the current legislation takes a process that has been in place for decades, which allows our membership to elect to have membership dues directly withheld, simplifying their process to be a part of the West Virginia Troopers Association. We ask that you not take away that process. So what's the policy behind it? Collection agents, we collect for third-party insurance companies. We collect for the United Way. We've collected for all of these groups with no extra cost to our payroll departments or to our agencies. But now, we're going to do this to punish our educators, to punish an association that not only provides them with a voice to talk about their issues, but also provides them with CLE, continuing education, helps them with liability insurance, helps them with retirement, helps them with certification that benefits our education association. And we're going to get rid of that. We're going to eliminate that because we know this will financially damage the associations. The amendment offered yesterday struck a balance. Get rid of the political part of the dues and just collect for what the association does that we all can agree on. Get rid of their political monies being deducted from payrolls and just let it be what the association does best. What happens when the pendulum swings the other way? When the majority switches, which will happen next year or 100 years from now, but it'll happen. Are we to have a list that we figure out how to punish those that were not with us? The election's over. We should all work together for the betterment of our state. This bill does not do that. I recommend a no vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator from Cabell.
Thank you, Mr. President. We all know that the teachers, we might say, overplayed their hand, and elections have consequences. And we have a supermajority that will pass this bill over objections from a number of folks from both parties. So the irony is the teachers aren't really allowed to be here. They're not allowed to be here. They're not allowed to be here to exercise their fundamental constitutional right to assemble and to address redress their grievances to their duly elected legislators. So I think there's an issue of transparency here. We're conducting government in a way in the dark by locking this building when the bars are overflowing around this state. On a personal level, I have a lot of friends in the Fraternal Order of Police in my county, both my counties, Cabell and Wayne. In the Fraternal Order of Police, law enforcement are against this bill because it's going to affect their ability to advocate for law enforcement. The sheriff's departments, the sheriff's deputies that are members of FOP Local 65 against the bill. The state police against the bill. FOP Gold Star 122 against the bill because it's going to lessen their ability to advocate for the law enforcement officers that keep us safe, in whom, Mr. President, we profess daily to love. So I get payback, I get politics, I get the fact that elections have consequences, but we should be debating this bill without empty galleries to watch how we do our work. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion? Senator from Marion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I certainly rise in strong opposition to this bill as well. As we all know, sometimes legislation has consequences that are intended, and as we know, some are unintended. And I have heard this argument about, with all due respect to my chairman, that we're not going to be a collection agency for these groups. But I've yet to see, Mr. President, any cost savings to the state of West Virginia. I've yet to hear from any administrations across this state to tell me this has been extremely burdensome to them and it cost them a fortune to do this. But what I have heard is we have to take away the right for people to willingly and voluntarily join an organization of their choice. You know, this state and this country, whether some like it or not, the middle class was built by labor unions. None of us would be what we are today if it weren't for people willing to stand up and organize and try to make a better way of life for themselves or their families. Health care was brought to these hills by people organizing and trying to make a better community and a better life for themselves. But what I believe this bill does is separate all of that. It is designed, in my opinion, to weaken organizations that stand up and fight for a better way of life, not only for themselves, but for their children and their grandchildren as well. Now, many of us will not be around long enough to see the devastating effects of this, but I believe it will happen. I believe things will change. I don't think they'll change for the better. And as my friend from Cabell said, the people who are opposed to this bill can't even have access to the Capitol to voice their opposition. Now, I believe this bill was targeted, Mr. President, for the education community and the school service personnel community. But what's happened here, it became very encompassing. Our boys and girls and ladies and men in blue that go to their FOP meetings can no longer ask that their dues be deducted, a choice that they freely made. Our EMS folks, our firefighters. I know we had an amendment dealing with collective bargaining, but all police and firefighters and EMS units across this state do not have the benefit of collective bargaining. So no longer will their dues be able to be deducted. The one thing that they want. I mean, what's next? We're worried about how people spend their money. Do we put our arm around our friend and we say, hey, I'm worried about that dues you're paying at the VFW, and I don't think you ought to be doing that, and we need to do away with that. What's next? These are choices that are freely made by people that elect all of us, regardless of what party we come from. They elect all of us. And we're just saying, no, we don't care what you want. We don't care that you signed off on that. We're telling you what's right for you. I think it's the wrong way to go, Mr. President. With all due respect, I think it's the wrong way to go. I think it's bad for West Virginia. I think it's un-American, quite frankly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion before I recognize the Senator from Morgan to close? Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I support this bill. I know there's a lot of good organizations out there that are, deducted from the payroll, but it's not the duty of the taxpayer to pay for those organizations to have their fees or dues reduced. It's just not, I don't feel, is a fair burden to them. And I'm not saying anything about the organizations. They do great things, but I think that needs to be on their own time, that they contact these individuals, get it taken out of their checking account. This bill does not prevent those dues from being paid by any member that wishes to be a part of it. But thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion. Senior Senator from Morgan. Senator from Morgan.
Only Senator from Morgan. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to respond just by saying that the purpose of this bill is not, at least in my mind, retribution or punishment or any such thing. It recognizes, first of all, a reality of our 21st century life, and that is that we do not need to have organizations making deductions from people's paychecks for these things anymore. It's too easy now. Anybody who wants to belong to a health club or a labor organization or a country club can easily have an automatic withdrawal or an ACH transfer set up from his or her checking account monthly, quarterly, annually, however he wants to do it. As we all know, there are the technology now exists to allow dues or fees for organizations to roll up monthly on a credit card account, can be debited, placed upon a credit card on a regular basis and paid that way. It is not necessary and it is not good policy to require the fiscal officers of the government at all levels, municipal, county, state, school boards, to become the collection agencies for all these various organizations that really have nothing to do with the person's employment or benefits. So just to clarify, in the bill, we're not changing any of the language that says that the fiscal officers can and must make withholdings from employees for their taxes, Social Security, pension contributions, insurance benefits, insurance through employment, that sort of thing. This relates only to a limited class of expenditures, and those are expenditures that are completely and purely voluntary, and that the employees, the public employees within West Virginia, are absolutely capable of taking care of themselves without having the state's fiscal officers and the fiscal officers of the political subdivisions manage that for them. Mr. President, I urge passage of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine, ascertain the results. On this question, 20 yeas, 13 nays, 1 absent and not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative. I declare the bill passed. Clerk has a title amendment.
Senator Trump moved to amend the title of the bill.
The question is on adoption of the title amendment. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the title amendment adopted. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 2263, update the regulation of pharmacy benefit managers. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a complex bill. The explanation will be a little bit long, so I ask you to bear with me. What this bill does, Mr. President, is it updates the regulations of pharmacy benefit managers, which I'll refer to as PBMs throughout the remainder of this discussion. The first section of the bill addresses reporting related to the PEIA from these PBMs. The scope of the bill provides an expanded explanation of the articles, since many duties have been added since the law was first written. New definitions were created in this bill, and these include health benefit plan, maximum allowable cost, and national average drug acquisition cost, often referred to as NADAC. This bill created new law regulating the reimbursement of PBMs, the pharmacy benefit managers, and established that a PBM may not reimburse a pharmacy or a pharmacist for a prescription drug or pharmacy service in an amount less than the national average drug acquisition cost, NADAC, for the prescription drug or the pharmacy service at the time the drug or service is administered or dispensed. Additionally, there's a professional dispensing fee of $10.49. The bill also provides that the national average drug acquisition cost, which is NADAC, if it's not available at the time the drug is administered or dispensed, a PBM may not reimburse an amount less than the wholesale acquisition cost, commonly referred to as WAC, of the drug, plus the same dispensing fee of $10.49. Mr. President, this bill also provides that a PBM may not reimburse a pharmacy or pharmacist in an amount less than the PBM reimburses any affiliate. The bill provides the insurance commissioner may order reimbursement to an insured, to pharmacy or dispenser who has incurred a monetary loss as a result of this article. This bill also requires the PBMs to produce methodologies utilized by them in connection with this reimbursement. Mr. President, the bill prohibits a pharmacy benefits manager, a PBM, from engaging in certain activities. It also provides that a PBM must pay 100% of all credits, rebates, discounts, or other such payments negotiated with drug manufacturers to the health benefit plan or covered entity. The effective date of this bill, Mr. President, is January 1st, 2022. We're almost there. Mr. President, this bill provides consumer choice for pharmacies. Therefore, the bill prohibits a pharmacy benefits manager, a PBM, from prohibiting or limiting a covered individual from selecting a pharmacy or pharmacist of his or her choice who has agreed to participate in the plan according to the terms offered by the insurer. This bill creates new annual reporting requirements. These include the annual amount of rebates received, the annual amount of rebates distributed to the health plan, the aggregate amount of rebates passed on to enrollees, the individual and aggregate amount paid by health plan or covered entity to the pharmacy benefits manager or pharmacist services itemized by the pharmacy, product and goods and services, and lastly, the individual and aggregate amount a pharmacy benefits manager paid for pharmacist services itemized by the pharmacy. Lastly, Mr. President, the health benefit plan or covered entity is also required to report directly on all rebates received and how those rebates were used to reduce insurance premiums or rates for the citizens. The Commissioner is required to consider this information in reviewing any premium rates for individual, group, or group accident and health insurance policy. Mr. President, I would reserve the right to close, and I urge passage of this bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there a discussion? Senator from Marshall, wish to close?
Yes. And only to say a few things, since there wasn't much opposition, obviously. The first 30 seconds ago, I talked about the nuts and bolts of this bill. Now let's just a couple sentences on what this bill really does. How's this going to help the people? And what this bill does is, there's a network out there that's intertwined and tangled. It includes drug manufacturers and wholesale distributors and PBMs and health plans and pharmacies and patients. And that network is very opaque, murky at best. It's hard to follow the dollar. And patients, citizens of West Virginia, are paying too much for drugs, just like people are across the country. This bill will, in fact, bring some of that money back to the people of West Virginia, and in the form of reduced insurance premiums and copays, without a doubt. We've incorporated a proven method that's currently used with 340B for pharmacies with a federal program, and there was a lot of work put into this bill. The Health Committee is proud of this bill, and I honestly do believe this will help every West Virginian with decreased health insurance premiums and copays. Mr. President, I urge passage.
Question is on passage of the bill. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative. I declare the bill passed. The clerk has a title amendment.
Senator Maroney moved to amend the title of the bill.
Question is on the adoption of the title amendment. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I'll declare the title amendment adopted. Clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House. Bills on second reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 28, creating Open and Equal Opportunities in Student Activities Act.
Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill be referred to the Committee on Rules.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 297 relating generally to modernizing Board of Treasury investments. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 303 creating Local Government Labor and Consumer Marketing Regulatory Limitation Act. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, sir. Senator Weld moved to amend the bill by striking out everything after the enacting clause.
Senator from Brooke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Senator from Brooke.
Thank you, Mr. President. My amendment is a strike and insert to the bill, and what it does is on the original bill, it deletes subparagraph number 8, which regulates the standards or requirements regarding the sale or marketing of consumer merchandise that may be different from state law. And since the bill came out of the Judiciary Committee, Mr. President, there were concerns of some of the effects that section would have on things like municipal zoning ordinances, various municipal ordinances regarding the retailers and the sale of merchandise. And so as a result of that, I've spoke with some folks on this, and we've decided to remove that section of the bill. I won't speak for others, but it seemed to be the consensus. I would urge adoption of the amendment. No, I'm be happy to answer any questions.
Is there further discussion? Senator from Boone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the senator from Brooke yield?
Will the senator yield? The senator yields.
Will, yes.
Thank you. Does your amendment do anything about the preemption for public health, clean indoor air, smoking regulations?
No, I aimed my amendment solely at the paragraph on merchandising and things of that nature, which was subparagraph 8 in the bill.
Would merchandising be considered tobacco products or vape products or anything like that?
Yeah, I think that it could, because that would be a piece of merchandise, any tobacco products like cigarettes or vape or something like that. So if there were local ordinances on those type of things, I think they would be covered in what is coming out as part of my amendment.
So you could have local control then on for public health or for tobacco then, or?
They could, and I guess I didn't really think the first part of your question through, but if you frame it in terms like that, yes. The answer would be yes to your second question.
Okay, thank you.
Is there further discussion? Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just say with respect to the gentleman's amendment, the senator from Brooke, it's not a specific amendment that we considered in committee, and I don't think it does great violence to the bill if it's adopted, so I express no opposition to the senator's amendment.
Is there further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is adoption of the amendment offered by the senator from Brooke. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Senate Bill 391 relating to study of child protective services and foster care workforce. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 431 relating to school attendance notification requirements to DMV. Second reading of the bill.
The bill, are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 502 providing lifetime hunting, fishing, and trapping license to residents adopted and foster children under 15. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 2008 amending requirements for licensure relating to elevator mechanics, crane operators, HVAC, electricians, and plumbers. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, sir. The Committee on Government Organization moved to amend the bill.
Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 2008 modifies requirements for licensure or certification for various trades. The bill substitutes OSHA's certification for crane operators for West Virginia licensure and authorizes the Commissioner of the Division of Labor to enter into a cooperative agreement with OSHA that will allow the Division of Labor to use federal funds for training and certification efforts. The bill also modifies licensing requirements for plumbers, HVAC technicians, electricians, and fire protection work such as sprinkler fitters. The Strike and Insert Amendment adds Article 3D of Chapter 21, which relates to crane operators, into the bill. It also modifies the journeyman sprinkler fitter qualifications, deleting an alternate examination provision, and makes a clarifying change to the inapplicability of local ordinances provision in Chapter 21, Article 3C, Section 14. This amendment, as it comes before us, is exactly the way we presented it in committee. There's been no changes. This is not an amendment that any changes I'm making as opposed to the way it came before the committee. And so, Mr. President, I urge adoption of the amendment.
Is there a discussion? If not, question for this. Roll call. Roll call's been demanded. Is the demand sustained? The demand is sustained. All those in favor of the amendment will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there's 18 yeas, 14 nays, 2 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted into the affirmative. I declare the amendment passed. Adopted. Are there further amendments?
No, sir.
The bill be advanced to third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 2013 relating to the Hope Scholarship Program. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be advanced to third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 2616, amend the reporting to the governor and the legislature to have information continuously available on the Office of Health Facility Licensure and Certifications website. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, sir. The Committee on Health and Human Resources moved to amend the bill on page 3, section 2, line 50 by striking out 25-1-3 or.
Senator from Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request unanimous consent to explain the amendment.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Senator from Marshall.
Mr. President, this amendment merely makes a technical correction in the bill by removing an internal citation that has been repealed and the related language associated with that. I urge passage of this technical amendment.
Is there discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is the adoption of the amendment offered by the Committee on Health and Resources. Roll call's been demanded. Is the demand sustained? Demand is sustained. On this question, all those in favor vote yea. Those opposed, nay. Clerk shall prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent and not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted into the affirmative, I declare this amendment adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be advanced to third reading. Bill's on first reading. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that all bills on first reading be considered read a first time and advanced to second reading.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered. Introduction of guest. Remarks by members. Introduction, Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a first for me. maybe for all of us, but I've been made aware that Robin Talbert, who's a constituent of ours in the Eastern Panhandle, is watching and participating virtually, and she is involved with the AARP. And so I know in non-COVID times, we're accustomed to seeing all those wonderful red coats around the Capitol. We don't have them here now, at least not yet, but I'm happy to know that we have one and perhaps others, along with Robin, who are watching virtually our proceedings. So I'd ask the Senate to help me make Robin and any other AAP members who are watching welcome.
Further introductions. Remarks by members. Senior Senator from the 5th.
Actually, as a member of AARP, I wanted him to recognize me, but that's besides the point. I'm here every day, and I'm representing the AARP.
Further remarks by members. Senator from Brooke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to announce that this weekend, the state of West Virginia gained 2 national champions from West Liberty State University. This past Saturday, the Division II wrestling national championship was held in St. Louis, and West Liberty had 2, not 1, but 2 national champions. Tyler Warner, and this is his 2nd national title. Tyler wrestles at the 133-pound group, and Cole Leah, who is a graduate of East Fairmont High School, wrestled at the 125 weight class. So these might be the only 2 guys in the state that are skinnier than I am, Mr. President. The team overall finished 4th, and so it was a very good weekend for Coach Irwin and his crew. So I wanted to congratulate West Virginia's 2 newest national champions. Thank you.
Further remarks by members. Miscellaneous business. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that a leave of absence be granted to our Senator from Summers.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Senior Senator from the 17th. Could Senator be at ease? Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Subject to announcements, I move the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m., and I have an announcement.
Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Starting this Friday, the floor session will begin at 10 a.m. and we'll continue that until notified otherwise. So again, starting this Friday, floor session will begin at 10 a.m. and each Friday thereafter.
Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on the Judiciary will meet today at 3:00 p.m. in the West Wing in the Judiciary Committee Room 208.
Senator from Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Education will meet today in 451M at 2 p.m. and the agenda has been posted. We will plan to reconvene if necessary to finish our agenda today.
Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Finance will meet today at 3 p.m. in room 451M.
Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Government Organization will be meeting today at 2 p.m. in room 208 West.
Senator from Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Health will meet today at 1 p.m. in 451M.
Senator from Tucker.
Tucker. I don't think he said up here. Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Energy's meeting will be canceled today due to a scheduling conflict. Thank you.
Senator from Raleigh.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on the Workforce will not be meeting tomorrow.
Senator from Brooke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on the Military will meet tomorrow at 9 a.m. in room 208 West.
Are there further announcements? Senator from Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Economic Development will meet tomorrow, 1 p.m. and 4:51 a.m. And note that's a change from our previous meeting location.
Junior Senator from the 17th.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Pensions shall meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. in room 451, and the agenda has been posted.
Are there further announcements? If not, the question before the Senate is the Senate stand adjourned till 11 a.m. tomorrow. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. I declare the Senate adjourned.
The House will please be in order. Those persons not having privileges of the floor will please vacate the chamber at this time. Members and guests in the galleries will please rise as we are led in prayer this morning by the gentleman of the 50th, Douglas Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for all the blessings that you bestowed upon us, and thank you for this opportunity to serve the people of this great state of West Virginia. And to continue to bless this state and our nation and all its inhabitants. And Father, we do think of Delegate Linville this morning. We pray for his father, for his healing. And for anyone else that may be on our hearts this morning, Lord, that may need healing, we pray for them. Father, as Reverend Jacob Duché, rector of Christ Church of Philadelphia, who on September 7th, 1774, gave the first prayer of the Continental Congress of what was to become the United States of America. Father, his words ring as true today as it did back then. He ended this prayer by saying, "Be thou present, O God of wisdom, and direct the counsels of this honorable assembly. Enable us to settle things on the best and surest foundation, that truth, justice, religion, piety prevail and flourish among the people. Preserve the health of our bodies and vigor of our minds. Shower down on us and the many we have here represent such temporal blessings as thou seest expedient for us in this world, and crown us with everlasting glory in the world to come. And all this we ask in the name and through the merits of Jesus Christ, thy Son and our Savior. Amen."
Amen. Members and guests, please remain standing, and we'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning by the gentleman of the 18th, Douglas Worrell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would everyone join me in reciting the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members and guests may be seated. Reading of the Journal.
Journal of the House of Delegates, Charleston, Monday, March 15th, 2021.
Gentleman 36, Douglas Barrett.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of the journal be dispensed with and it be approved as having been read.
The gentleman 36 asks unanimous consent that the further reading of the journal be dispensed with and it be approved as having been read. Are there objections? There are no objections. Lady from the 49th for an update on the calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On special calendar, second reading, House Bill 3131 has been transferred to the House calendar. On House calendar, third reading, committee substitute for House Bill 2770 has been transferred to the special calendar with the right to amend.
Introduction of guests. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our doctor of the day is Dr. Guha from Charleston. If everyone would make them welcome. That's it. And also on the floor with us today is former delegate and COVID survivor, Kevin Bartlett. Please make him welcome.
Reports of standing committees.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration House Bill 2174, West Virginia Monument and Memorial Protection Act of 2021, House Bill 2633, creating the 2021 Farm Bill, and House Bill 2823, exempting buildings or structures utilized exclusively for agricultural purposes from the provisions of the State Building Code. Reports back committee substitutes, therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitutes each do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration House Bill 2742, providing explicit authority to process an online driver's license or identification renewal or reissuance when the applicant needs to update the address, and House Bill 2914 to remove certain ex officio voting members from the Archives and History Commission and update formatting. Reports the same back with the recommendation that each do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration House Bill 2496 relating to assessments of real property, and committee substitute for Senate Bill 469 permitting and establishing requirements for appearance by video for purpose of notarial acts. Reports the same back with the recommendation that each do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration House Joint Resolution 15, Disabled Veterans Property Tax Exemption Amendment. Reports the same back with the recommendation that it be adopted, that it be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
The report will be received. The resolution will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Your Committee on Finance has had in consideration House Bill 2777, Repeal Municipal Amusement Tax, House Bill 2782, Repeal Domestic Animal Tax, and House Bill 2808, remove salt from list and definition of mineral for severance tax purposes. Report the same back with the recommendation that each do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Finance has had in consideration House Bill 2630, requiring DEP to reimburse fines paid by towns, villages, and communities in certain instances. Reports back committee substitute, therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration House Bill 2499, tax reduction for arms and ammo manufacturing. Reports back to committee substitute, therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
Report will be received.
Your Joint Committee on Enrolled Bills has examined, found truly enrolled, and on March 15, 2021, presented to His Excellency the Governor for his action. Committee substitute for House Bill 2001 relating generally to creating the West Virginia Jumpstart Savings Program. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 216 authorizing the Department of Commerce to promulgate legislative rules. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 272 relating to West Virginia Employment Law Worker Classification Act. Senate Bill 296 relating generally to repealing certain rules. Senate Bill 338 creating Fire Service Equipment and Training Fund. Senate Bill 372 providing greater discretion to West Virginia Board of Medicine to approve graduate clinical training. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 126 authorizing the Department of Administration to promulgate legislative rules, and committee substitute for Senate Bill 277 creating COVID-19 Jobs Protection Act.
That report will be received.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 2982 relating to the Second Chances at Life Act of 2021. Reports the same back with amendment with recommendation that it do pass as amended, that it be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
That report will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary. Are there further reports of standing committees? Are there reports of select committees? Message from the executive. Message from the Senate.
The Senate has passed with amendment and a title amendment and changed the effective date to passage. Committee substitute for House Bill 2011, eliminating any time requirements for part-time personnel to work during a working year.
That message will be received. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the bill be taken up for immediate consideration.
Are there objections? There are no objections. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 2011, the purpose of this bill is to eliminate any hour requirement for temporary employees relating to an hours cap during a work year. The Senate amended the bill to provide clarification for seasonal state forest, parks, and recreational areas by reclassifying those personnel as temporary personnel and eliminating a cap of 1,733 working hours per calendar year. The amendment aligns with the House version and goals and aligns with the Division of Personnel's definitions of temporary employees, which included seasonal employees. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I move we concur with the Senate amendment and title amendment.
Lady from the 49th moves that the House concur in the Senate amendment and title amendment to committee substitute for House Bill 2011. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, those in favor of the motion will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The question now before the House is the passage of the bill as amended by the Senate, concurred in by the House. Is there discussion on the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 97 ayes, 0 nays, and 3 members absent or not voting. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. Is there further title amendment? If not, the title as amended by the Senate, concurred in by the House, will be and remain the title of the bill. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the bill take effect from passage.
The lady from the 49th moves that the bill be made effective from passage. Those in favor of the motion will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 98 ayes, 0 nays, and 2 members absent and not voting. 2/3 of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill effective from passage. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next message from the Senate.
The Senate has concurred on the House amendments and passed committee substitute for Senate Bill 295, relating generally to economic development loans and loan insurance issued by the state.
The message will be received.
The Senate has passed committee substitute for Senate Bill 346, authorizing DMV use electronic means when providing notice for licensees and vehicle owners.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Technology and Infrastructure, then the Committee on Government Organization.
The Senate has passed committee substitute for Senate Bill 472, updating criteria for regulating certain occupations and professions.
The message will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Senate has passed Senate Bill 523, correcting improper code references.
The message will be received. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the bill be taken up for immediate consideration, dispense with the committee reference, and read a first time.
The lady from the 49th asks unanimous consent that Senate Bill 523 be taken up for immediate consideration, that its committee reference be dispensed with, and that the bill be read a first time. Is there objection? There is no objection. The bill will be taken up for immediate consideration. Clerk will read the bill a first time.
Senate Bill 523, correcting improper code references.
Bill will be advanced to second reading. Next Senate message.
The Senate has passed Senate Bill 529, creating improper citation relating to DMV registration.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on the Committee on Technology and Infrastructure, then the Committee on Government Organization. Are there further Senate messages? If not, resolutions.
House Concurrent Resolution 51, United States Army, Private Elmo Davis Memorial Road.
Lady in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, and that each resolution be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the delegate console system.
Lady in the 49th asks unanimous consent that the further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, and that each resolution be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the delegate console system. Are there objections? There are no objections. Petitions.
Delegate Boggs presents a petition signed by residents and community members of Riley Run Road requesting a bridge to provide passage from Gasaway Road to Riley Run Road.
The petition will be received and be referred to the Committee on Technology and Infrastructure. Motions? Bills introduced.
House Bill 3176, requiring sharps containers in all state buildings and facilities where the public is allowed.
Chair will note for the benefit of the members on introduction today is House Bill 3191. Chair is in error that without objection, House Bill 3191 will be referred only to the Committee on Finance. Chair has no objection to that reformation. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with and each bill be considered as fully introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the delegate console system.
Lady from the 49th asks unanimous consent that the further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with and that each bill be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the delegate console system. Are there objections? There are no objections. Unfinished business.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 15, extending certain leases between the United States Army Corps of Engineers and Nicholas County Airport Authority.
Lady in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that SCR 15, HCR 8, HCR 13, and HCR 16 be adopted en masse.
These are naming resolutions to the members. Lady from the 49th asks unanimous consent that committee substitute for the Senate Concurrent Resolution 15, HCR 8, HCR 13, and HCR 16, which are all naming resolutions, be considered en masse. Is there objection? If not, those in favor of adoption of those resolutions will please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. Those resolutions are adopted. Further resolutions.
House Concurrent Resolution 32 to name Gatewood Road in Fayette County as the Senator Shirley Love Memorial Road.
Question before the House is the adoption of the resolution. Is there discussion on the resolution? The gentleman to 32nd, Doug Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Incidentally, I need to ask for a 49 ruling on this matter, given the fact that I live on Gatewood Road.
Okay, the gentleman
with more than five
other people live on the road.
Yes.
If there are more than 5 other people on the road, Chair would rule the gentleman does belong to a class of greater than 5 and therefore would be directed to vote.
I would like to speak to the resolution.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, and I will support this resolution given the understanding that it will not actually rename the road for address purposes, so all the hundreds of residents on Gatewood Road will not have to redo their address labels and have a new 911 designation, but it's my understanding, Mr. Speaker, that this will merely place additional signs along with the Gatewood Road sign as the Shirley Love Highway Memorial sign. Thank you.
Is there further discussion on the resolution? If not, the question is, shall the resolution be adopted? A roll call vote has been demanded. Is the demand sustained? Demand is sustained. The question is on adoption of House Concurrent Resolution 32 to name Gatewood Road in Fayette County as the Senator Shirley Love Memorial Road. Those in favor of adoption of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 98 ayes, 0 nays, and 2 members absent or not voting. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the resolution adopted. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate on all resolutions adopted under unfinished business. Is there further unfinished business? If not, bills on third reading.
House Bill 2379, make criminal invasion of privacy a felony.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? If there are no objections, the gentleman to 13th, Doug Pinson, to explain the bill.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you. House Bill 2379 will make criminal invasion of privacy a felony in the state of West Virginia. The purpose of the bill is to increase the offense of criminal invasion of privacy by visually portraying from a misdemeanor to a felony in our state with corresponding increase in the penalty of the offense. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker. I would urge passage and reserve the right to close.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, the question is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 97 ayes, 2 nays, and 1 member absent or not voting. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 2379, make criminal invasion of privacy a felony.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 2493, providing valuation limitations for coal property taxation and clarifying the penalties of non-filers.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? If not, the gentleman of the 10th, Doug Chris, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. House Bill 2493, this was a concurrent resolution last year which resolved that legislatures should study the tax department's methodology for evaluating and assessing coal properties for the purpose of calculating property tax. This bill is the result of that resolution. By statute, property in this state must be assessed at its true and actual value. Under the West Virginia Constitution, property must be assessed equally and uniformly throughout the state. The tax department uses a mass appraisal system to value coal property due to the impracticality of valuing each individual coal parcel. The system depends on various averages and historical data to determine assessment values. The methodology and the use of averages have raised some concerns about whether the statutory and constitutional requirements are being met by the system. This bill implements 6 changes. The tax department is currently using a 3-year average to calculate the value of coal for property taxation. The 3-year average by its nature cannot always reflect the true and actual value of the property as required by the statute. This bill shortens the time for the average to be the most recent calendar year rather than 3 years. Number 2, the tax department also uses a flat average of 1,800 tons per coal per acre foot for all coal seams measured to measure coal density. The flat coal density figure is used to determine values for taxation, but does not consider individual seams characteristics. A flat number cannot always reflect the true and actual value. This bill retains the use of the flat average coal density of 1,800 tons per acre foot, but also allows a taxpayer to establish a lower density by clear and convincing evidence. Number 3, the bill requires that economic viability and engineering considerations to be considered when establishing values for coal properties. This will be added to a true and actual value for coal. Number 4, the bill requires that coal beds, which are at a thickness of less than 35 inches, shall not be classified as mineable coal for evaluations unless there is a clear and convincing evidence to the contrary. Currently, the thickness by rule is 30 inches. Based on academia and industrial and the tax department, they have agreed that 35 inches is a more accurate thickness for underground mining. Number 5, currently coal seams are considered active seams for property taxation when the state mining permits are issued. However, it may be years before the actual mining begins. The bill includes language stating that no permitted coal seams may be classified for taxation as active until actual depletion of coal commences under a permit. This change reflects the reality that issues a permit does not mean a seam is ready to be mined. A great deal of investment and work remains to be done, and the value of the assessment shall reflect this reality. Under the bill, coal seams will remain reserved until coal is actually being removed. These 5 changes will reflect any assessments made or on and after July 1, 2022. Finally, in the past, the tax department has used non-filing penalties to encourage taxpayers to file property tax returns. These penalties added a percentage to the last available valuation to determine an updated value for a new assessment. There is no language in the code or rule that establishes uniformity across the different types of property. This bill adds language requiring the tax department to be sure that non-filing penalties, if used in the future, are uniform across different types of property. Mr. Chairman, I urge passage. Or Mr. Speaker, I urge passage.
The question before the House is shall the bill pass. The lady from the 41st, Dr. Tully, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to request a Rule 49 by virtue of owning some significant property interests that this would pertain to.
Lady is a mineral owner.
Lady and family are mineral owners, yes, sir.
Under that set of facts, it would be the ruling of the chair the lady would belong to a class of greater than 5 individuals and therefore would be directed to vote. Gentleman from the 35th or 34th, Douglas Boggs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman yield. Appreciate the work on this. Just curious, when did the Finance Committee work group meet and who was on it?
We met with the industry and the tax department over the summer.
Okay, so this apparently wasn't a bipartisan meeting, it was just...
No.
Okay, just wanted to check it out. Wanted to make sure I didn't miss a meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The gentleman from the 53rd, Douglas Jennings, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman yield. If I was a farm owner that owned a couple hundred acres of ground and the coal underneath of me, but there was a coal mine that was coming towards me, but I would not lease my coal, I owned it, would that change how much I would have to pay in taxes?
No.
As long as I don't lease the coal?
As long as it's not part of the active permit.
Okay, that's what I was worried about. Just have me shook there.
Okay, thank you.
Is there further debate on the bill? The gentleman from the 36th, Douglas Rose, recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the gentleman would yield.
Yes, sir.
I don't see a fiscal note in the system, and I see from the abstract that one was requested. Do you know, do we have one?
No, sir, we do not. Not yet.
Do we have an idea or even an inkling about what the tax consequence will be, especially to the local governments, if this change is made?
No, we don't. But from the opportunities for once it's placed in active mode, then the property tax would obviously go up at that point. Plus, it would add equipment and so on that would be involved in the active mine that would be listed on the blue form that we all get for businesses that have to be assessed to this or sent to the assessor.
Now, I understand that the 3-year average is being changed to last year's value. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And is that what we use for most property evaluations, is last year's value rather than a...
Yes, I think mostly.
So this would be more consistent with that?
Yes. Be closer to the true and actual value.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from the 30th, Douglas Bates, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My friend, the Vice Chair, yield for just a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. This is the first time I've seen this. I had some questions answered previously, but on the abstract, on item 4, with regard to the thickness of coal seams,
yes, sir.
It talks about 35 inches, which is just short of 3 feet, being a more accurate thickness for recoverability of underground mining. But in the bill itself, it doesn't say underground mining. So, and 3 feet's a decent seam height. So, the bill itself just speaks.
Yeah. Are you reflecting the fact that it's underground versus open pit?
Yeah, well, you could, surface mining or high wall. I mean, there are ways to extract coal to the seam other than underground methods.
There's no minimum on open mines.
So we're changing
We're just changing the underground.
But the bill itself, as I read, doesn't reflect that. It doesn't say underground. It just says seams. It mentions the seams, but not the method of extraction.
This has to deal with the seam and should not be classified mineable coal for valuation of tax purposes unless it is clear and convincing evidence to the contrary.
So my reading of the bill indicates that we're talking about seam height, not necessarily method of extraction.
As soon as the surface mine permit is activated, then it becomes, that's the clear and convincing evidence. Otherwise, it remains in reserve coal.
Irrespective of the mining method. So the mining method doesn't come into play until the extraction occurs. Is that right, Robert?
It's unminable reserve until the permit is issued.
Okay.
And if it's smaller than that, correct?
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Lady in the 52nd, Douglas Seipold's recognized.
Thank you. Will the Vice Chairman continue to yield? I was wondering, was the assessors or the Assessors Association at the table during these meetings?
No, because these evaluations are done by the State Tax Department.
Right, but then we or the Assessors Association or the assessors deal with these values during what we call our Board of Equalizations.
No,
okay.
They were not at the table.
Okay, and I just wondered because of the, during those Board of Equalizations, we deal with the state tax departments in, defending those. And as an assessor, I definitely know there was a need of a new way to evaluate those coal values. So I was wondering if they had a part in bringing these new ways of evaluating the mineral and coal valuations.
All I could understand would be if there was concerns, the tax department would have brought them forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Lady in the 4th, Douglas Zukov is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. I have a few questions. Who was on the committee that met about this, or in the working group, besides the Coal Association? And could you tell me names? Were there any stakeholders involved? Any landowners? Can you give me
the State Tax Department primarily, and myself, a delegate from the 38th, and the delegate from the 8th.
Okay. I'm curious because this will really impact my county. We're the top coal producer in the state. So I'm just trying to get some information here. Was this a published open meeting that the public knew was going to occur?
I don't know.
Who headed the meeting?
I would assume I would, as the vice chairman.
Okay, but is there a record of the meeting and what occurred?
Well, this was a concurrent resolution that passed last year that the study be done, and that's what happened.
And the study was done, and we don't have any, you just said, just to reconfirm, that we don't have a physical note on this?
No, we've asked for it, but we've not gotten it. It's like several other things that we've asked for the tax department to furnish, and they haven't furnished yet.
But we're going to vote on this bill today without knowing that information.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be sure. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
The lady in the 51st, Douglas Fleischauer is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Vice Chair, would you continue to yield?
Yes, ma'am.
So do you have no idea whether this will reduce or increase revenue to the state?
No, ma'am.
You don't have any idea what the fiscal implications will be? Okay, thank you.
Is there the gentleman from the 30th, Douglas Bates is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just one more, if I can. Just one more, if I can.
Yes,
just to follow up on the general lady's question. My reading of this, it doesn't impact the state's severance collections. It impacts the revenues in the counties. Would that be correct?
That's correct. It's not a severance tax bill. It's an evaluation of true and actual value of coal properties.
So if there is any negative economic impact, that would occur at the county level, not the state level.
That's
would that be
correct.
Okay. And that would be spread inconsistently. It would depend upon production and reserves that would be contained within particular counties.
That's correct.
So the gentle lady's county may be impacted more than the county that produces
exactly, because
the nature of the
Because
topography and geography and all those
Because
things.
the method being used currently is not true and actual value.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there further debate on the bill? The lady from the 51st, like a flesh hour, is recognized a second time.
Thank you. Was hoping the gentleman would continue to yield.
Yes, ma'am.
So I couldn't hear very well the questions or the answers. You're saying that it could result in loss of revenue to counties, this bill?
Yes, it also could expand the revenues to the counties.
And we don't know the total, we don't know the individual loss to counties, and we don't know the individual gain. Or do we?
Each county situation will be different. And I
So
can't tell
some
you.
counties could dramatically lose
I don't know
revenue.
that
That's a
dramatically.
possibility?
Excuse
Is that a
me?
possibility?
No, not dramatically.
Some counties could lose a lot of revenue, which might be important to their budget.
There will be some counties that lose some valuations, but I don't know how much that is. But I don't know that in your classification of dramatic, I don't think that's true.
So the lady from Marshall was asking questions about her county because they have high coal production. Is that one of the counties that's likely to lose revenue?
I don't think so, because it's an active mines. These deal with active mines on personal property tax or on coal evaluation tax for property tax operations. If it's an active mine, it probably will not change at all. This deals with reserves and with seams that are less than 35 inches.
And I've gotten some information that that particular county has a lot of reserves and is likely to lose. You don't know whether that's accurate or not.
No, I don't know, because if the reserves are involved in an active mine situation, then they won't change. It's only reserves that have not been mined or are not involved in a mine permit that's active.
Okay, but to my main question, there definitely will be counties that will lose revenue. I think
There
is
could
what
be,
you're saying.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
thank you,
ma'am.
Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from the 29th, Doug Castillo, is recognized.
Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
So we're reading through this, and it's saying that after July 1st of 2022, that they won't be valued if the thickness is below 35 inches. How does that affect thin seam severance?
Unminable reserves is what they'll be, and they will be taxed at a different rate.
Well, I mean, I'm correcting. I mean, we saw the governor's tax shift plan, talking about, thin seam. I mean, we collect a lot of taxes off thin seam.
That's for severance taxes. This has to do with property evaluation tax.
Well, and I understand that, but what you're saying is that the property is worthless if the mineral seam is below 35 inches, but we already know the vast majority of these down south are thin seam. They're not long walling anymore.
It's not barren coal. There is value there. It's just at a reduced rate.
So we're only doing a property tax reduction for minerals and nobody else.
Just coal in this bill.
Just coal.
Yes, sir.
At a time when we're supposed to be dealing with some kind of tax shift plan in which all these other businesses are getting ready
This
to...
doesn't affect the state, or this only affects property evaluation for the counties.
But in a county like Raleigh, where 98% of the land is owned by coal companies, I mean, this is going to have a huge impact, right?
It could have an impact, yes, sir.
So what is the economic impact of this on the counties? Was there a fiscal note?
No, sir, there was not. We've asked for it, but we can't get it.
But who did you ask for it?
Tax department.
But we have a fiscal office that we just started to ask for it. And we passed the bill to get our own fiscal office to pay and He's got a PhD downstairs. You ask him, he gives you numbers. I mean, why didn't we ask him? I mean, this is something that could cost, I mean, we're already in Raleigh County in a situation of reduced revenues, Boone County, Lincoln County, you name it. And the largest taxpayers are the property taxpayers on this coal property. I mean, don't you think we need to know some numbers before we vote on this?
We're still looking at the fact that this has been an unequitable system under litigation to get these formulas set up so that we have a true and actual value. And this is the method that we've come up with.
Okay. I don't have any further questions for the gentleman. Mr. Speaker, can I speak to the bill?
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'm the first guy here that's going to jump up and throw my coal ribbon on, but I'm just sitting here looking at this. I don't know a thing about it. And I think we're getting into a dangerous spot. I mean, Raleigh County, you know, Boone County, most southern West Virginia, we don't even know what the economic impact of this is going to be. Nobody's talked to us about it. Nobody's discussed it with us on our side or the other side. And if we're going to be forced to vote on this today, I got to vote no, Mr. Speaker. And I would encourage us to maybe lay it over a day. I don't know, or a few days, or a date certain, because maybe this is something we do need to do, but I can't do it without knowing how it's going to affect my county. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Lady in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to recommit the bill back to Finance.
Are there objections? Bill will be recommitted to the Committee on Finance. Further bills on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2770, including home confinement officers and definition of law enforcement officers.
This bill was advanced to third reading with the right to amend. Are there amendments?
Delegate Barrett moves to amend the bill. This is HFA Barrett 3-16, number 1.
Are there objections to having the amendment explained in lieu of having it read? There are no objections. The gentleman to 61st, Delegate Barrett, to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment is a technical cleanup needed to add code provisions relating to home confinement officers, which are needed for the bill to function, as well as to sync up provisions which are included in House Bill 3132 on third reading tomorrow in order to avoid any code conflict. Mr. Speaker, I urge adoption.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. The gentleman 35th, Delegate Caputo.
Speak to the amendment.
Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the gentleman's amendment and urge adoption of it. It makes technical changes to the bill and improves the bill. So urge adoption.
Is there further debate on the amendment? If not, those in favor of adoption of the amendment will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Are there further amendments? If not, the clerk will read the bill a third time as amended.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2770. Including home confinement officers, the definition of law enforcement officers.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? There are no objections. The gentleman at 35th, Delegate Caputo, to explain the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of the bill is to designate home confined officers as members of the law enforcement and to authorize home confinement officers to carry concealed firearms under LEOSA. The bill designates home confinement officers, again, as members of the law enforcement and authorizes the same as it relates to firearms, and urge passage of the bill.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? The gentleman at 36, Delegate Rose, recognized.
Just a question for the chair.
Sure.
Do these folks already get police training, regular law enforcement officer training?
No, they did not, but because of the amendment that was adopted, they will.
They will. All right. Thank you, sir.
Is there further debate on the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 93 ayes, 6 nays, and 1 member absent or not voting. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2770, including home confinement officers in definition of law enforcement officers.
Are there amendments to the title?
Delegate Barrett moves to amend the title.
The question before the House is the adoption of the title amendment. Those in favor of the title amendment will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. The chair declares the title amendment adopted. The title as amended by the House will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 2776, creating the Air Ambulance Patient Protection Act.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? There are no objections. The gentleman at 35th, Delegate Caputo, to explain the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of this bill is to create the Air Ambulance Patient Protections Act. It provides certain consumer protection for patients of air ambulance services. The legislation establishes that any entity, whether directly or indirectly, who solicits air ambulance membership subscriptions, accepts membership applications, or charges membership fees, is an insurer and shall be licensed and regulated by the Office of the Insurance Commissioner. The bill also authorizes rulemaking and establishes an effective date of July 1st, 2021. I urge passage of the bill.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? The gentleman at 53rd, Delegate Jennings, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I speak against the bill. I hope that you will too. These air ambulances charge an enormous amount of money. Now, I know that they say they don't bill anybody, or if they do, you can just throw it in the trash. You don't have to pay it. But West Virginians, they feel they have to pay their bills. These air ambulances for an 8-minute flight could run you somewhere in the neighborhood of $35,000 to $40,000. And by doing this, what it is, it's getting rid of the competition. And I feel competition is good, and if we can keep this competition going, maybe we can get these prices dropped. So, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman at 12th, Delegate Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speak to the bill.
Gentleman is recognized.
I urge passage of this bill. All this bill does is say that the air ambulance companies, we sell the insurance policies, not a piece of paper, that the insurance commissioner can approve or disapprove. There's only basically one company selling these right now, and they're selling to people that don't need. They set out in different locations out front of the stores. They say that they'll pick you up any place, anywhere. It is cheap. It's like $65 a year for a family or individual. This doesn't stop that from happening. All this does says the insurance commission will regulate these. These are insurance policies. They're not just a policy you're buying. Right now, they're not regulated. This not stop it from happening. This is an NCOIL model bill that I presented to the legislature that NCOIL will probably pass in April this year, that hopefully most states will take over. So for those reasons, I urge passage of the bill.
Is there further debate on the bill? Does the gentleman from 35th wish to close debate on the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 85 ayes, 14 nays, and 1 member absent or not voting. The majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 2776, creating the Air Ambulance Patient Protection Act.
Are there amendments to the title?
Committee on Judiciary moves to amend the title.
The question before the House is the adoption of the title amendment. Those in favor of the title amendment will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. The chair declares the title amendment adopted. The title as amended by the House will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 2888, relating to when contentions can be revived based on forensic scientific evidence that was not available at the time of conviction.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? There are no objections. The gentleman at 35th to explain the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to give a summarization of the bill. I'm happy to answer questions as to the details, but essentially what this bill does, it provides an avenue for those that are incarcerated currently in West Virginia, that if a scientific method or science arises that provides or adds to the innocence of that person, that then their particular matter is not deemed finally adjudicated and may be reopened before the courts and adjudicated with the new science. Alternatively, what it does is it provides for, in the instance if science is debunked, science that caused that individual to be convicted is debunked, then that case is not considered finally adjudicated under this bill and can be reopened, examining it without that debunked science. Finally, the bill states that it does not create an additional liability for any expert who repudiates his or her own original position at a later hearing due to any sort of new science that arises that abdicates the inmate at that time. Mr. Speaker, that's a summarization of the bill. I'm happy to take questions. Urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? The gentleman from the 13th, Doug Higginbotham, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is my bill. I'm the lead sponsor of it, and I first just wanted to say thank you to Chairman CAPUTO for running the bill. I also wanted to thank the West Virginia Innocence Project and the faculty at WVU School of Law for their work on this. It's been a lot of work being put into it, and just wanted to say thanks to everyone involved.
Is there further debate on the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 99 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 member absent or not voting. A majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 2888, relating to when contentions can be revived based on forensic scientific evidence that was not available at time of conviction.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk. Will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Are there further bills on third reading? If not, bills on second reading?
Senate Bill 404, modifying well work permits issued by DEP Office of Oil and Gas.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2400, authorizing the Department of Transportation to promulgate legislative rules.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2634.
Lady in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the bill be committed to the Committee on Finance.
Lady in the 49th, ask unanimous consent that committee substitute for House Bill 2634 be committed to the Committee on Finance. Objection? There's no objection. The bill will be committed to the Committee on Finance. Next bill on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2794 to extend the Neighborhood Investment Program Act to July 1, 2026.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2817, Drug Repository Program.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 3078 relating to powers and duties of the Parole Board.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill.
House Bill 3081 updating the West Virginia Business Corporations Act.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 3128 relating to carrier fees on 911 fee revenues.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 3133 relating to motor carrier rates.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on second reading? If not, bills on first reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 5 relating to claims arising out of West Virginia Consumer Credit and Protection Act.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 42 creating Zombie Property Remediation Act of 2021.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2495 relating to the filing of asbestos and silica claims.
Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2830 relating generally to sex trafficking.
Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2854 relating to the West Virginia Municipal Police Officers and Firefighters Retirement System.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2855 relating to the Natural Resources Police Officers Retirement System.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2896 making a supplementary appropriation to the Department of Health and Human Resources Division of Human Services.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2898 making a supplementary appropriation to Workforce West Virginia Workforce Investment Act.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2901 making a supplementary appropriation to the Department of Health and Human Resources, Division of Human Services.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2903, making a supplementary appropriation to the Department of Homeland Security, West Virginia State Police.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2940, making a supplementary appropriation to the Department of Education, State Board of Education, State Department of Education.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2941, supplementary appropriation decreasing an existing item and adding a new item of appropriation to the Department of Revenue Insurance Commissioner.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 3129, relating to the Consumer Price Index rate increase.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 3130, relating to elimination of sunset provisions concerning towing rates.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 3132, relating to motor carrier inspectors.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 3134, creating a new criminal defense prohibiting public disclosure of restricted information.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 3175, relating to removing certain felonies that can prohibit vehicle salespersons from receiving a license.
The bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on first reading? If not, leaves of absence. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For our colleague, Delegate Hardy.
Are there objections to a leave being granted? If there are no objections, a leave of absence will be granted. Introductions, miscellaneous business. If not, lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move, subject to announcements, the House adjourn until 11 a.m. Wednesday, March 17th.
The question before the House is, subject to announcements, that the House stand adjourned at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Rules will meet at 10:45 tomorrow morning in House Education.
The gentleman of the 10th, I got Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Finance will meet today, March 16th at 4 p.m. in the House chamber. The agenda is posted. Thank you.
The gentleman of the 32nd, I got Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Judiciary will meet today at 2:30 p.m. in the Judiciary room. The agenda has been posted.
The gentleman from the 35th, I got Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a reminder, virtual public hearing tomorrow, Wednesday, March 17th at 8 a.m. from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. We will be having that in the cloud, and those members that want to join in person of the committee will be up in the committee room. And if you want to participate as a speaker in that hearing, please call the committee room today between the hours of 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. And request to speak. Please let us know your position, your email, phone number, contact information. The number to call is 304-340-3252. Thank you.
June the 13th, David Higginbotham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Republicans on your Education Committee will be meeting upstairs in the committee room at 12:30, and the Committee on Education will be meeting at 2 o'clock. The agenda is posted.
The June the 15th, Doug Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Government Organization will meet at 2:30, and the Republican members will caucus at 2:15 in the chairman's office. The committee meeting is in the Government Organization Committee room. The agenda is posted. Also, Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Government Organization will host a virtual public hearing for House Bill 2174 tomorrow, Wednesday, March 17th at 3 p.m. Anyone wishing to speak during the public hearing should call 304-340-3192 between 3 and 4 p.m. today to register. Citizens wishing to participate are required to provide their name, email, phone number, and entity you represent during registration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman of 31st, Doug Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Veterans Affairs and Homeland Security will meet at 3 different times tomorrow, March the 17th. First be 9 a.m. in the House chamber, then again at 3 p.m. in the Government Organization. If the committee is not finished with the agenda, we will then meet at 6 o'clock in Government Organization at 2:15.
The gentleman of the 22nd, Doug Jeffries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Fire and EMS will meet tomorrow, March 17th at 9 a.m. in the East Wing Committee room. The agenda will be posted.
The gentleman of the 27th, Doug Gearhart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Pensions and Retirement will meet at 10 a.m. Wednesday morning in the House Finance Committee room. Thank you.
The gentleman from the 12th, Doug Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Judiciary Subcommittee on House Bill 2195 will meet today in Judiciary Room at 2 o'clock. The members, myself, Delegate Berkheimer, Delegate Fast, Delegate Brown, and Delegate Lovejoy. 2 o'clock in Judiciary Committee Room on the subcommittee for House Bill 2195.
Lady in the 52nd, Delegate Seipold.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Seniors, Children, and Family Issues will meet tomorrow in the Government Organization Room at 1 o'clock, and the agenda has been posted. Thank you.
Gentleman the 54th, Delegate Hott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Banking and Insurance will not meet tomorrow. Thank you.
Gentleman the 44th, Delegate Hanna.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Prevention and Treatment of Substance Abuse will not meet tomorrow. Thank you.
The gentleman the 22nd, Delegate Maynard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Technology and Infrastructure will meet at 3 o'clock tomorrow in the chamber. Also, 15 minutes before that meeting, the Committee on naming bridges and roads will meet in the back of the chamber, 15 minutes before.
The gentleman the 25th, Delegate Painter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources will meet at 8 a.m. Wednesday morning in the House Government Organization Room. Agenda has been posted.
Lady in the 41st, Delegate Tully.
Your PEIA subcommittee of the Committee on Health and Human Resources will meet tomorrow, Wednesday, March 17th at 4 p.m. in the House Judiciary Committee Room. Thank you.
Gentleman the 45th, Delegate Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Political Subdivisions will meet tomorrow at 4 p.m. in the Government Organization Room. Thank you.
The gentleman the 7th, Delegate Barnhart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Workforce Development will meet tomorrow at 1 p.m. in the House chamber, and the agenda will be posted. Thank you.
The gentleman the 13th, Delegate Higginbotham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Correction on the Education Committee. Republicans on the Education Committee will caucus today at 1:30. Republicans caucus at 1:30, and the committee will meet at 2 as scheduled. The agenda is posted.
The gentleman the 3rd, Delegate Fluharty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Democrats will caucus at 12:15 in Gov.org, and lunch will be provided. Thank you.
Lady in the 38th, Delegate Graves.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Republicans will caucus here in this chamber at 12:15, and I do want to remind Republican members that lunch has been provided for the Republican caucus. It's in 252, so feel free to grab your box lunch and come back in for caucus at 12:15.
Are there further announcements? If not, the question is on the motion that the House stand adjourned at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The House is adjourned at 11 a.m. tomorrow.